And today we have a special guest for you guys. We have Craig Russell from Tradier. So here, let me just get a quick sound check first. I want to make sure there's no mic issues whatsoever before we begin. Loud and clear, loud and clear. Perfect. All right, so everybody, so we have Craig Russell here from Tradier doing our closing bell presentation. I know he's got a wonderful presentation lined up for everyone here today. Now, Craig has been involved in the financial markets for over 15 years. He's a passionate and knowledgeable trader, going on about the front-end experience of users as well as market data. He brings a deep understanding of what end users expect and how Craig works, and how Craig works to position complex products and content in a consumable way for all. In the 60-minute webinar right now, you guys are about to learn how to set up your charts and how to use your charts all together throughout the markets. You're going to learn all about chart trading and advanced support and resistance levels and calculation using time and price. So Craig, here, are you there?
I am here. Do a quick mic check for myself. Hopefully this is coming through reasonably loud and clear. Muffled, says Rich. I'm working on it, Rich. I don't know what's muffling me. It could be nobody wants to hear me. Horrible, says Wayne. All right, I gotta work on this. Is this getting any better, guys?
It sounds a little bit better on my end, Craig.
A lot of bigs. Let me see if I can adjust this in one.
Is that any better?
There you go. That sounds pretty good to me, Craig. How about you guys?
Sounds pretty good to me, Craig.
There we go. Much better.
All
awesome.
right.
There we go. Much better.
Okay, I turned down the gain, so maybe that had a little something to do with it. Good. I just don't want anybody feeling like they're listening to nails on a chalkboard, right? Well, hey, first off, thanks everybody for coming. And Josh, thank you for the nice introduction. Very much appreciate the opportunity to be here, to work with the Cyber Trading University crowd and get a chance to talk to you. I've been a trader for a long time now. It's running on close to 20 years that I've been really actively trading. And for a while, I actually was a prop trader and coached in a prop shop. I had my own educational service for a while, and then most recently I've come over to work with Tradier on the brokerage side. We'll talk about that. But immediately prior to that, I actually worked at Interactive Data and ran the entire eSignal group, as well as all the education there. So they're kind of near and dear to my heart. And I'm going to talk a little bit today about some of the powers of advanced chart features. And then I'm going to talk to you about how to do some kind of non-traditional support and resistance work using rate lines and being able to project points in time and price to look for CITs changing in trend out into the future, right? I'm going to focus mostly just when I'm doing this stuff on daily charts, but I want you guys to know that everything that I talk about is applicable across time frames. So you can use it on your 3-minute intraday charts, 60-minute charts, daily charts, weekly charts, what have you. These days I am with Tradier though, and I need to do a little intro of us and what we do. Alex, I don't use candlesticks, but I like candlesticks. I'll tell you what, hold on to that question and we can discuss it in just a second though. So Tradier Inc. is actually the parent company of Tradier Brokerage. I work for the parent company, but we happen to have our own brokerage. And being a brokerage, probably everybody in here knows, we're a little bit regulated, so I have to put up a couple of little disclaimers here first of all. And my compliance officer always likes it when I let you know that trading in financial instruments, stocks, and options, and anything else that you might be trading carries risk and should only be undertaken with risk capital, and you should know that you can lose money doing it. We have a slightly different take on brokerage at Tradier. We actually partner with front ends, so folks like eSignal, folks like LiveVol, folks like Dynamic Trend, folks like AbleSys, folks like Charts IQ, and Options View, and a whole lot of other non-traditional, non-brokerage related analytical tools. We have a pretty straightforward website to execute your orders, but more importantly, we empower those other types of front ends that I just mentioned to be able to let you trade through them using your Tradier account. So we're almost like the PayPal, if you will, of trading platforms out there. And we believe that our job is to do what we should do as a broker, first and foremost, provide you guys with good execution at a good price. And I put the pricing up there so you guys all know what that is. We trade equities and listed options. $3.49 on the equity side, 35 cents a contract on options. There's a $5 minimum on single leg and $7 on multi-leg. Those are true minimums. So keep that in mind. But we feel it's our job not to try and pigeonhole you into one user experience, one charting platform, if you will, one way of analyzing the markets. We want you to have your choice, and we want you to use what fits for you. And I happen to know that Fausto has been a big user of eSignal for a long time, and I knew him back when I was running that platform, so we do appreciate that. And that's why I'm going to use eSignal today to talk to you a little bit about some of the power of those charts, the integrated trading you can have with Tradier, and then how to do some non-traditional calculated support and resistance work. Okay? Also, and I'll put this back up just before the end, but in case anybody's interested, we do have a special offer in case you're not using eSignal, or even if you are and you want to switch. There's a little bit of a special offer here that you can actually get 3 months of eSignal for free by opening a Tradier account and signing up with us for eSignal. And on top of that, we'll give you a couple $100, $200 to be precise, in free commissions as well. So something to contemplate if you like what you see or have ever wanted to try out eSignal. Yeah, Ron, I noticed that there's a lot of TradeStation users in here, and that's awesome. I got no problems with that. You'll be able to do the support and resistance stuff, I believe, with TradeStation. It's been a long time since I've used it. Are these prices the same in Canada, Helen is asking me, and they will be when I can open accounts for people in Canada. But right now, Helen, just being straightforward with you, we do not have the ability to do that. All right. So let me actually get up some software here. And start talking about things that are going to be slightly more interesting. Yeah, Helen, we it's on our list. Believe me, it's Canada is one of the more difficult places actually to take accounts from as a brokerage. It's neither here nor there. They're trying to do the right thing and protect their citizens. So. But it is on our list. All right. So I've got just a chart up here and a couple of real simple things since somebody was asking about candlesticks earlier. Alex, I like bar charts, but I'm going to show you how you can take these charts and look at whatever you want. As we go through this, you guys, I prefer it to be a little more interactive, so please feel free to ask questions as we go. A couple of things will happen there. If I know the answer, I'll just give you the answer. If I think I'm about to answer that question, I'll tell you that, and then I should answer it in just a minute or two. If I don't know the answer, I'll just tell you flat out that I don't know the answer. All right, because I think that's only fair. So this is eSignal. This is a standard advanced chart, and you can open these just by going up to New and saying Chart. I've already got this one here, so I'm not going to mess with it. As I was saying, I like bars myself personally. It's personal preference. It's got nothing to do with better or worse. It's just what I like to look at. I see the candle patterns the same as most people would looking at a candlestick chart in these bars. But one of the nice parts, about eSignal here in general is that you can change the charts to be whatever you want. I just simply right-clicked right in the middle of my chart. I'm going to drop down here to Properties. Right? I'm going to pick out the Edit Chart tab. And you can see right here that I've got the type of bar. Well, if I happen to like candles, I can just change it to candles. Or if I happen to like line charts, which there are some times when line charts are actually really, really good to use, especially when you're doing things like overlays. to compare two different markets or two different symbols to each other. Right? Some people, when they're publishing something or if they want to take a snapshot, they actually like these area charts, fills it in. I'll be honest, I've never ever used it, but when you're publishing something, it makes for a nice little chart. You're putting, say, a post somewhere. Then also some of your other more esoteric ones, Henkinashi, Kagi, point break charts, Renko, price break charts. You can easily change this to customize it to whatever you want. Now, through my presentation, I'm going to just stick with bars because, like I said, this is what I like. And it's no worse or better. Use what you like. At the end of the day, you're in control of your trading, and you have to be comfortable with the tools you're using, right? One of the things that I do like a lot about these advanced charts from eSignal is the ability to trade straight from them. Now, there's a couple of different ways that you can do that, and they actually have multiple brokerages. Tradier happens to be one of them that you can connect to and trade from. You can either just right-click in the middle of these things, and you'll notice that up above, I haven't connected the broker. I'm just going to go connect to the brokerage real quick. Down here in the lower right, I'm just going to pick paper trading for now instead of my live account. Market's closed. Wouldn't do me any good anyways. But you can always just right-click here, and you'll notice new order is one of the first things. Now, these charts are contextually smart. So they actually know when you click above the price action, there's only a couple of things you could be looking to do, right? A sell limit, a buy stop perhaps, a buy stop limit if you don't want to use a market on the other end of that. And if you do that, let's just click on that. You'll notice that right there, I've now got my one share of a limit sell up there. If I want to, I can easily just drag this around and adjust the price, and it dynamically just automatically adjusts the price for me in the background. And I just realized I forgot to turn on a presentation tool, so hang on real quick, guys. I'm going to just fire this up so that I can do a little bit of fancy John Madden work for you in a minute. There we go. Right, and if I do eventually drag this down below, it gets smart and it knows, oh, it wants us to fill because I just drug it below where the existing price action is. So it says, oh, you wanted it to fill. Okay, good. Since it was a sell and you drug it into the price action, we'll just execute it. Now I'm just going to close that out. That little X right there allows me to do that. The other way that you can execute orders from these charts is there's a little trading panel, and by grabbing that right off the top of your chart, you can open up this window over here that gives you then the ability to select, okay, if I want to buy, I'm going to click on that, and I'm going to be able to set it where I want. Again, it's contextually smart, so it knows that when I'm above the action, since I pressed buy stop, since I went above the action, it's a buy, it's got to be a buy stop of some kind. Same on the sell side, right below, contextually smart. Your other buttons, buy, sell at market, at the bid, at the ask, it just depends. For you guys that are day trading, these are going to be really helpful when you're looking at, say, 1 minute charts. These will be able to send your order exactly where you want it, right off of the chart. So for instance, if I change this, and I'll just change it to a 1 minute chart here, like that, all I did was hit the 1 and enter. Chart knew that I wanted to go to a 1 minute chart. For those who might like other alternative intervals, you can also turn these into tick charts. You can turn them into any time-based interval you want, volume-based charts. Is this chart from eSignal or is this from Tradier? Oscar, this is an eSignal chart. Far better than anything you would ever get directly from Tradier because we don't actually do those kinds of charts. So this is an eSignal chart. We have a partnership with eSignal where we get A, some special pricing, and B, you can actually get it for free with your trading volume through us. Make sense? All right, I'm going to go back to a daily just because. Now, that's how you can trade straight from these charts. How are those orders activated through eSignal? Okay, that's a fair question, Oscar. With any signal, you'll notice I'm going to go up here to trade, and I'm going to just go down to broker manager here. You can add to any list of brokerages. So Tradier is a brokerage that's connected to eSignal. So you can trade your Tradier account right through eSignal, never have to go back and forth. All right, so we have an API solution. It allows the message traffic to go back and forth. Executes in your brokerage account, allows you to then see within your brokerage account, right? So I have a trading tab over here. So for instance, if I go to this trading tab, you can see that here I've got an account manager. These are those GDX orders that I was just goofing around with. If I had positions up here, they would show up because I've got my positions tab highlighted, right? You can see the status, the state. If you actually have multiple accounts, you can come take a look. So it's just a matter of connecting your Tradier account to eSignal, and that's all it does. Then you send these orders, pulls the positions automatically, pulls your history if you wanted to see anything there from deposits, previous buys, sells, positions. It's all there. All right. So there's some pretty sophisticated things you can do from an order standpoint. You can bracket the markets and whatnot, all from these charts. Now, one of the ways that I like to do that is to trade on some support and resistance. Okay? Because you can add all kinds of fun indicators to these. These charts are pretty great for that. If you want to insert a study, you just right-click in the middle of your chart, pick out a study. I don't know. I have some favorites. For instance, I happen to like the advanced get stochastic. It happens to be one of my favorites. So I'm just going to add that to this chart, and then I'll get rid of it. But you can use a stochastic. You can add your moving averages, all kinds of things to these charts. You can overlay them. So there's the stochastic, and let's say maybe you like also to look at, we'll just pick one out, MACD, because it'll look pretty when we overlay it. So now I've got two separate windows, right? Well, a couple of things I can make happen. If I want them to just go away, I can just really rapidly double click and they'll shoot to the bottom. This little icon up here will allow me to bring them back real fast. Boom, and they're there. Or if I so desire, I can just overlay them on top of each other like that. Make a little room for myself. Squeeze it down. Just depends on what you need to see and how much of it you need to see. If you really wanted to, you could even overlay those on the price activity up here. It makes for a little bit of a messy chart with these two indicators, but other ones it actually makes a ton of sense for, right? So now I'm just going to send those into the background right there like that. One of the real powerful things in these advanced charts, beyond the ability to manipulate them and do different time frames and trade from them, really has to do with the market geometry and some of the support and resistance work that you can do here, right? Finding turning points in both time and price is something that can be very additive to your trading, right? It can give you spots to look for changes in trend. Gives you inflection points. Now, I'm pretty sure that we're all probably familiar with your standard support and resistance from previous highs and previous lows. But in order to put us all on the same footing, I'm just going to cover it real fast, right? Kind of historical, easy to use, standard support and resistance has to do with looking at previous pivot points. And what's a pivot point? Well, a pivot point is just some place where price activity moved up or down, stopped, turned around and pivoted the other direction, right? So just like it's football season, so just like a good running back, price runs up to this point, stops, pivots, and turns the other direction. That leaves us with this little pivot point right here. Well, the market couldn't get past that at this point in time, right? So that's an area where you can say reasonably, hey, I think there should be some resistance. And you can grab a nice, easy horizontal line tool off of here and project that forward. Now, the theory here is that when that price level gets revisited, no matter how far out in the future, I'm going to stop using an ETF. I'm going to use something else. Let's use, everybody likes to look at this one, so we'll use Apple. And then we can go look at stuff that you guys give me. I'm just going to go way back, and I'm going to do the same thing with Apple. I'm going to pick this pivot, whatever it is here. So the theory is that the next time it gets visited, it should spend some time, and that should act as resistance. Well, we spent a lot of time around there. And at first, you spent a couple of days, right? We spent about 3 days trying to get past it. Couldn't really get too far. Had to spend around a month toying with that level before it could really kick away. I'd say the market kind of thought that was important, right? Well, let's grab one from here. And I don't know if it ever got back there. No, not yet. Although it did close, open and close really close to that level. I always find that fascinating. Markets have memories, guys. In case you didn't know that or believe it, if you do enough of this for yourself, you will definitely get convinced that markets have memories. They remember price levels. They remember where they were. And they don't like to just willy-nilly blow through them a lot of the time. And that's darn good right there. Jeez. Gap above, immediate plummet below. And this level, in my mind, has been tested 3 separate times after being established back here. Just nice, easy, standard support and resistance. Take a previous high, take a previous low, right? And you can find that that'll play out over time. Anybody have any questions on that? I'm going to go get rid of these lines right here just to clean up this chart. All right. So now I have a question for you guys. Our charts are made up of time and price, really, right? And I'm going to squeeze that price action way off of the book. So time kind of goes this way, right, on our charts. That's time. Price goes this way, up and down, right? That's price. I'm just going to write a P for that. So time and price make up our charts. And it doesn't matter whether you're looking at candlesticks or bars, or it's the same. Well, I'm going to ask, what kind of line does a price point make? So someplace where price is the same across a line. What kind of line does that make? Does anybody know? So a singular point in price makes what kind of line? All right. It makes a horizontal, guys, because everywhere along this line, Tatiana knows. There you go. Straight is accurate, but you can have a straight line in a lot of different ways, JB. But horizontal. It makes a horizontal line, right? Because price is exactly the same anywhere on that line. Yeah? Okay. So a point in time makes what kind of line? It's got to make a horizontal. It's got to make the opposite, or a vertical, excuse me. It's got to make a vertical. Because the point in time is exactly the same all across that vertical. All right. Well, if you put something together that has both time and price in a specific ratio, what do you end up with? Well, you end up with something that's got slope to it, something that does that, right? Something that goes upwards, maybe it goes downwards, but it's got slope, right? Because there is a ratio of time to price along those slanted lines, right? It's so many points down and so many increments of time over. So many points up and so many increments of time over. And that ratio of time to price is exactly the same everywhere on that line, everywhere on this line. Does that part make sense to you guys right there? Okay. Now you'll see these most often and traditionally in trend lines, right? Pretty simple stuff. Again, most people have probably seen this, heard of it, know of it. But just to put us all on the same footing, right? You can create trend lines by connecting two or more pivots. I think it's best if you can connect two and then find future points. Yeah, there you go, JB. Price and time, time and price. Right? So now that's a trend line, but that's just a line, right? That's just a line with slope. And it's got a specific ratio of time to price. And it's exactly the same anywhere along that line, right? This particular market happens to like that ratio. So I don't want you to think about it as, oh, it's a specific trend line because I connected this pivot and this pivot. Just think of this as a ratio, or if you were more Gann oriented, as I tend to be, you could call this a rate line. Okay. Now, it turns out that just like markets have a memory for horizontal price resistance, they have memories and will pay attention to certain specific ratios of time and price as well. So what that means is when you've got an advanced chart where you can duplicate lines and copy those ratios forward, you can use them over and over again to project into the white space resistance in time and price. So for instance, in this particular chart, I'm going to just copy this one here. If I was to say copy this, because I can right click on it, say duplicate, and then I'm going to attach it to a pivot down here and see if it doesn't give me any help. Well, as we approach this one, we certainly knew we should be looking at that as an area for potential change in trend. This had been in a nice uptrend. If it couldn't maintain this, right, retest, if it had failed there, that uptrend would have pretty much been over. If you look at this here, and this here, and this here, and that there, that was all very important spots, right? Now I'm going to duplicate that another time. And I'm going to attach it to this pivot here. Now, notice that we did pick up pretty close to the exact low on that day, and we had that line before that day formed. Do you guys see that? You see how we had the day, had that area to look at for support before it ever got there, right? And then if we look out here, I'm going to zoom in just a second so that we can see how this market acted around those levels on that day. So let's do that. I'm going to do it by just taking this to a 15-minute chart to make it easy. So we don't have to scroll backwards through, a gazillion bars. But I just want you to look at this and tell me whether you think that this market thought that was somewhat of an important level to pay attention to. And if you couldn't use this in your intraday trading even. So I generated this work from the daily chart. But if it's important on the daily chart, I guarantee you it's going to be important on those intraday small time frame charts. So what happened? Well, this thing started straight down. It managed to break. What kind of candle would that have been right there? It would have been a reversal. Would have been a doji right at that level, and then it cracked. That's not all bad. Then in the next day, because there's a day break in there, these are 15-minute charts. And the next day, what did it do with that level? It just played with that dang level all day long. It was a little bit bullish above it and bearish below it. Pretty useful stuff. Now, if I break this back out to the daily, we've got a spot here that this is going to continue to give us useful information if this market can stay above it all the way up here as it plays with that level. And it's just the fact that that's a specific ratio of time and price, or a specific rate that this market happens to like. Now, we didn't have to break out our calculators and get all algebra with it, right? We were able to do this just by using the power of these charts, drawing a line. And when we drew that line, that's the market telling us what ratio of time to price is important to it. And you do it off of a previous swing, because if it was important once, it's going to be important again. Is that making sense to everybody? There are many different trend lines on this chart with different angles, and end up with a bunch. I'm not gonna disagree. I'm gonna show you how to generate some downward sloping ones in just a second, right? I like to stick with big important pivots to draw my first one, because I kind of think that might be the crux of your question is, good God, I could draw a gazillion of these things. I have a slow ass, huh? Well, all right, Steve. Sorry you don't like it. I don't know exactly where everybody's starting from, so I have to start everybody off in the same spot. So I always pick really big, primary important pivots, right? That give me a ton of relevance, because the bigger, the more important the pivots, the better, more important your rate lines and trend lines are going to be. All right. Now, it turns out, and actually what I'm going to do here is I'm going to ask you guys, and maybe Ron, give me a symbol that you're most interested in these days. Something that you've been watching, whatever it is. I don't care. Some equity, some market that's of interest to you. Soon. Facebook, Nike. Okay, we got a few, you guys. That's good. Since I asked Ron, I'm going to steal his first. So here's Soon. All right. And I'm going to go backwards, Ron. So all I'm doing is dragging this back to give me some history. Wow. All right. So when I look at this, right, here's what I see. Way back here in 2012, right? This was kind of the first higher high after that big downtrend. So I'm going to use this pivot and this one as my first two. And I'm going to see what that gives me. I'm going to go from there to there. And I'm going to go look and see if the market liked that rate, if it was paying any attention to it. And I can see that, yeah, you know, once, twice, there's a third time and a fourth time. Well, JB, you're right. So the thing you got to do is not draw too many. There's a real art. I don't know if it's so much art as it's just practice, quite honestly, because I'm not that artistic to be fair. Even my grade school teachers didn't think so. But it takes some practice. There's no doubt. That's one reason why, too, I like to just take symbols from you guys so that I can... You know, JB, I don't change to a log scale. There's some validity to that, but what I do is when a market will stop paying attention to a specific rate, a specific scale, specific ratio, it'll tell me what the new one is so I can redraw. But I try not to change my scale up if I can't. Steve, you're a feisty one, aren't you? I like it. But that's a pretty good rate, right? So now I'm going to just right click. I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to take it back up here. Another pivot. Did it give us any help? Sure looks to me like it did. Now let's go out here as we get closer. Again, it's given us some great knowledge. Struggle, 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 break, retest, break, retest. That's a great, great freaking line. I mean, this stuff always, you know, it works. It works across markets too. I know I'm using equities right at the moment, but you know, this stuff will work on futures. You know, it'll work on Forex. I don't know what all everybody is necessarily trading in here, but this technique will keep working across all those markets. Okay. Now, soon, to stick with this example, well, there's nothing way down here. So, geez, I don't know if that could help us, right? Yeah, Ron, I think you can do smaller pivots, but then you've just got to keep redrawing much more often because of the smaller scale. If you think about it, like a rock being dropped in a pool of water and ripples spreading out, because that works for me from an analogy standpoint. The bigger the rock, the bigger the ripples, right? So the bigger the pivot, the more significance. Right? Now, one thing, and I'm going to show you guys. So here's something you could say, well, that's great, but this soon is actually a terrific example. It didn't give us any help on this big downswing, Craig. Look at that. That's pretty massive. I don't know. We went from the 30s and low 30s, right, down here to $3. Well, it turns out that if a ratio works go in one direction, its reciprocal is also important going the other direction most of the time. So you need a way to figure out how to calculate this reciprocal. Well, within these signal charts anyways, there's a pretty easy way to do that. You can use this rectangular drawing tool. It's really just a parallelogram, right? Up here to do this calculation for us. So I'm just going to pick that out, and now I'm going to draw a parallelogram, and all I'm doing is connecting the corners. All right, you guys? So this is pretty simple, but it's just mathematically accurate. You have to think about it that way. All I did, and it doesn't matter how big or how small I draw this, all I did was connect this corner right on the line and that corner right on the line. You guys see how I did that? And that gave me that rectangle there. Now to get kind of the reciprocal of this, all I need to do is connect the opposite two corners. Now I've got a line that's going the opposite direction that can help me on downswings. So now I've just connected it back to this pivot up here. And I'm going to just go forward. Ooh, no real help there. Good bit of help here. Decent help there. Didn't hold a candle there. Sad to say. Now I'm just going to drag this down. And I'm going to use it out here on that pivot. That's not bad. I'm going to zoom in so you guys can see this. Pretty good, pretty good. Where did it fail? Yeah, when they're falling hard, Ron. I would agree. I would agree. Let me go see a couple other of those symbols back up here that people were asking about. SWHC, that's one I'm not familiar with. I'm going to go work on that one. But do you guys see how just having this kind of work can give you some inflection points for issues that you might be watching over time, right? If you want, you can take this down to a very short and do a whole lot of drawing time frame. I won't recommend that because I think it's much more powerful up here on the bigger time frames. And then when your market or your equity is right there in the zone, use these. But it's some extra information, right? It's some support and resistance work in both time and price that you wouldn't have otherwise. And using some advanced charts like this from eSignal gives you a great tool to do it with. And it makes it fairly easy. It also makes it nice and easy to go and do a whole bunch of practice. So what was it? SWHC, I think, was the one that I saw back there. I'm going to do this one kind of in reverse. All right. I'm going to go find a downswing and work on calculating the upswing. That looks good. Okay, so I went all the way back on this one to 2011. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to take that. And I'm going to see if I think that this market cared. It didn't so much care, so I'm going to take this, I'm going to take that. And again, with my third touch, can you guys see what I'm looking at? It doesn't, when I say it cares, when I project it out into the future, I didn't get any real help out of it. So if I can't get at least that third one to give me some help, I know the market's not paying the kind of attention to that rate that I want it to. So let's see here. That's pretty good. Okay. So this one gave me some great help right in there on that third touch. Now if I duplicate this thing, and I go and I add it to some other pivots, I want to see what it did for me. That's pretty good. Gave us a high, gave us this inflection point that led to the turn, right? Because we broke, retested, and that's when this uptrend started. You guys see that? Do you see the little process? I did it really fast because I'm used to doing it. But do you see how I came up with a rate that I like there? Because I think this market likes it. And now it's up to me to go see how the rest of it pans out. So I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to calculate the reciprocal of this. All I got to do is draw my little parallelogram. Again, doesn't matter how big or small. Just make sure you get the corners in the right spot. So now I've got it. I'm going to attach it to this last big pivot down here. Right there. And this is going to answer somebody's question about time and log scale. I think that was you, Ron. That rate was still important almost 3 years later. And I don't know of other ways to come up with this kind of work in time and price unless you get a whole lot fancier. I'm going to duplicate this another time. And use it out here. Not bad. I'm going to draw the other one facing downward. Oh my goodness. Kind of important. I wonder what that looks like on the intraday chart today. Yeah, program trading doesn't change much. That's one way to look at it, Ron. I think there's actually something else at work here, but we can look at it however we want. I'll just take this down to a 5-minute chart for fun, not to get too tricky with it. But there's the 5-minute chart intraday today as this guy approached that spot. There you go. So that's some pretty straightforward ways to just do some easy support and resistance work, guys and gals. Excuse me. I'm a fan. I think if you do this kind of work, especially on things that you trade over and over again, it will give you a ton of help. And it can give you some spots if you do it as you're setting up your day and you know that something's going to be moving. If you just do a little quick work and see if you can't find an area that coincides with what's going on today, it'll help your day trading pretty hugely. Oscar, I'm saying I don't use it on logarithmic charts. So I can't say that it would continue or would not continue to work on logarithmic charts. I don't think it would, quite honestly, because if you just think about how logarithmic charts are built, they're going to skew it over time, and they're going to skew your line. I mean, realistically, on a logarithmic chart, right, you wouldn't have straight rate lines or trend lines like this. They would need to curve in some manner or fashion. Yeah, I think, Ron, you've got a good point there. This is, depending upon the length of your logarithmic chart, this could be way short compared to what you might be looking at. But I would say that there's a lot of other stuff you can do. Pete, you can. It depends on what. So Pete's question there, in case everybody can't see it, is why not use this on weekly and monthly charts for way back data? You absolutely can. The pivots are going to be almost the same. But you certainly can. Just for fun here. Somebody had thrown up Nike, and so let's make that a monthly chart, just for fun. All right. So that is pretty parabolic looking, right? So let's try this for fun. That is the move from November of 92 to February 97, just for fun here on Nike, right? Now I'm going to duplicate that thing and move it forward, just to say. I'm going to pick this last big pivot. So then when I pick and I duplicate that onto this guy here, it ends up giving us high way out here in 2012. That previous one gave us some great stuff to look at here in 2014. Now, the nature of this move is so parabolic here, you'd need to use something nearer term to pick that up, but it's certainly doable. And one thing you can do with these charts is I can actually just change the time frame, as you've seen me do with the dailies and whatnot, right? So I could take it down to a daily time frame like that after having drawn it on the monthly. And you'll notice that you pick up all these areas on the smaller time frame. So it's always valid to go from a bigger time frame, Pete, down to a smaller time frame. It does not really work in reverse, though. You don't want to go from a smaller up to a bigger. You want to stay big and go small, or just stay big. All right. Well, I'll tell you guys what. Hopefully that was worth some of your time. I appreciate you guys spending it with me and taking the time. Most everybody stuck around, so I didn't put everybody to sleep. I'm going to leave it open for any last questions. If anybody's got anything about anything I talked about today, if you've got a question on anything else in these charts, or if you have a question about our brokerage, let me know. Otherwise, remember that eSignal 3 as a promo code. If you go to tradierbrokerage.com, you can sign up for an account as well as get hold of eSignal for 3 months for free. Ex-dividend dates are available. Yeah, John, they're available inside eSignal. You get those XD dates. Yeah. Julian, save when moving between different time frames. Yeah, they do, Sam. They do. Absolutely. So like this one I drew on the monthly, I moved down to the daily. I'm going to just go back to the monthly, and it's right there. Has to, otherwise it would be kind of useless, right? It's the same. Okay, Oscar, that's a fair question. So I drew it connecting these monthly pivots, right? Each one of these bars now, I'll spread this out. Each one of these bars represents a month. All right. Well, if I drop the time frame on this chart down to a daily chart, now each bar represents a day. But that's the same line. It stayed in place, right? Depends on which part of linked between different charts you mean, Sam. You can detach these, you can detach the pages, you can detach the charts, spread them all across your multi-monitor setup. If you're asking, can I draw a line in one chart and have it automatically appear in the other one? No, but you can draw your line and then duplicate the chart really easy and place it wherever you want. All right, everybody. Well, with that, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up and say thank you very much to Josh and Fausto and Greg and David, who are all in here helping me run this. And I appreciate you guys' time. I really do. Thank you very much for spending it with me. Pete, is my pleasure. Yeah, it's a nice short week, although I will say this, one of the best trading days I've ever had in my career was a Friday after Thanksgiving. I almost always, sadly, now stick around for it, even though they've gotten much less volatile these days. All right, folks. With that said, I'm going to wrap her up. Everybody enjoy your Turkey Day. And if you don't happen to be in the U.S., heck, enjoy the day off because the markets are closed.